Hey, good afternoon. Coming to you from the offices of Teeple Snyder Newsom. You may not recognize this handsome young fella. We have, from all the 10s and 20s of views that we've gotten on our videos, we realize we need to get younger and more cutting edge. So I'm here with my millennial friend, Park Leacock, and I'm actually, nobody knows this, but my son, Evan, is doing a little video production work for us and consulting. So hopefully we step up our game.
I hope so too.
How are you doing, Park?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the introduction. Really looking forward to diving into some of the economic commentary, but even just some broader thoughts on what we do here and what our philosophy is. How are you doing? I know you just got back from a pretty exciting trip.
I did. Yeah, no, it's bittersweet to be back. I'm not going to lie. We're just out at Glacier National Park, and for anybody who knows me, I love the mountains. Part of me wonders why I have been born, raised, and lived in Indiana my whole life. If you've never been, Glacier National Park is stunningly gorgeous. I just see the majesty of our Creator out there. And it kind of got me thinking. I was reflecting coming back, because it would be easy to be discontent if you're a mountain lover and living in the cornfields of Indiana. So Ecclesiastes, there's a couple things that jump out at me. Ecclesiastes 5:10, he who loves silver will never be satisfied with silver or wealth, nor he who loves abundance with increase. I think contentment is such a key financial principle, because it's easy to be focused on what we don't have. The author goes on to say, here's what I have seen, and it is good and fitting for one to eat, drink, and enjoy the good of all his labor, in which he toils under the sun, all the days of his life, which God has given him, for this is his lot. It really got me focused. My lot is not in the mountains. It's in Indiana, and I am blessed in Indiana to have, in my case, Eagle Creek Park, which is not the mountains of the West, but I find a lot of enjoyment by being content with what I have. What about you? What's your lot?
My lot is here on the southeast side of Brownsburg, where we have our home and two beautiful kids and another on the way. My lot is with our church community and our community in Brownsburg and being a good father and husband. I'd love to be somewhere where it's summer at all times of the year, but this is where God has put us, and we're content with that. He's given us good gifts.
No, for sure. If we could be content in any and all situations, there'd probably be a lot less worry about money or the economy. When we were out in Glacier National Park, we had a assassination attempt on the president, which we heard from my youngest son's girlfriend via text. We thought, this can't be happening. This has got to be fake. We had Biden step down from running for the election. I mean, there's a lot that people could be worried about. The economy, there are still some things that might signal recession coming, might not. We might have a soft landing. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just the very still expensive valuations we have in the stock market. I mean, tell me about that. What are you talking to your clients about?
We are looking at extremely high price to earnings ratios above 20 for the S&P 500, which is what a lot of people look to for gauging the rest of the public markets, sort of as their metric of, are things overpriced? Are they underpriced? Have we hit historical all-time highs? One of the things that we've noted is that when we see the market hover above that 20 price to earnings point, we see the next year on average do less than 3% return.
Right.
That's not a crystal ball, but it's a huge indicator that we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, if your starting point is bad, what you're going to see going forward is less. That just makes common sense. Right now, where is value to be had in stocks?
You could do a couple different things. Some people throw a dart at the dartboard. Some people say, why don't I just buy equal portions of everything? We think that there's a lot of value to be had in finding sectors of the public markets that are more fairly valued in the price to earnings ratio. If we get selective and do our due diligence, we can hold the stock exposure that we want, but we can do it a lot more efficiently than just holding nothing but the S&P 500.
Well, and the S&P 500 is 40% the Magnificent Seven, and as
Right.
magnificent as those 7 companies are, you can pay too much for a great thing.
Right.
And if you look, this is not just the 7 that we're all accustomed to, but the top 10 in the market right now are collectively valued at, what was it, 34 times earnings, I believe?
Yes. So we're looking at 66% valuation above.
I mean,
historical
they do
averages.
tend to trade at a premium to the market in whole. Like
Right.
what's their average is about 20. That's what the market is about right now. But for what's normal for those great companies
Right.
is, we're priced 66% higher than that. That,
Right.
to me, we've got to find other opportunities, whether it be in mid caps, small caps, value, international. I read a stat that, because so far the spread between price to earnings ratios on mid and small cap stocks relative to large is near a historical high. And that should lead to outperformance. Now, when that starts to ensue and take off, nobody knows. I mean, large cap stocks can stay expensive for an extended period of time. But if you look back to the last time the spread was so high between large cap stocks and the tech bubble, and the outperformance that mid and small has had since, its total returns of just over 600% compared to just under 300%. So I mean, a doubling. Both, I'd take both, but
Right.
I think there's a compelling case to be made for the fact that large cap stocks, at some point, wiser investors are going to start making decisions that will equalize the spreads.
Yeah, not only that, but across the board, value style stocks have posed far more favorable price to earnings ratios that have allowed us to take slight tilts towards those value style stocks, and that's just another way to be more efficient in how you hold your stock ownership.
Yeah. We talked a lot last time as well about private markets and private equity, and one of the things that jumped off the page to me is just the supply and demand dynamics of that market. There are less and less publicly traded companies than there were even 10, 20 years ago. A lot of companies are choosing to stay private or go from public back to private. At this point, the available companies to invest in, if you look at publicly traded versus privately owned, I mean, it's like 15 times the size in potential. So a lot more supply, and yet for these truly private investments that you have to be an accredited investor, there's a lot less demand. Only because there's only a limited pool of people who would qualify for these investments. So that supply-demand dynamic leads to a lower multiple that you buy in at, which is where a lot of that value is to be had.
Yeah, we're kind of at the sweet spot too, because there has been more demand to get entry into these private companies.
Sure.
I mean, like you mentioned, the majority of companies, it seems, that are above 100 million in revenue are private rather than public, which wouldn't be the historical norm if we look at the public bull markets we've had. But with all the demand to get into those companies, there's been more opportunity to actually enter into private investments.
Yeah, the whole industry has changed from that standpoint, and what's accessible and at what minimum fees and for what lockup periods. If you're an accredited investor and your advisor is not talking to you about private equity markets or private investments, we would love to talk to you, because it's going to be something that's more and more and more important going forward, as we talked about last time.
Well, we live in very uncertain times, politically and economically. I mean, there are so many new things in the economy that people don't have definitive conclusions for. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty and doubt and worry, I would say, is the most common sentiment among investors. This is the most important time to have an advisor parse through the mess and pave a way forward.
No, for sure. You know what, one thing is certain: we have a God who has everything in control. So my prayer for you is that joy would trump anxiety, and that you would find a great contentment in your lot in life. It's our pleasure coming to you. God bless, and thank you.